And we're live on another episode of Guide Live B2B Jam Session. Thank you all for who are tuning in. We'll give you all some time to join us. But how's everyone's day? Happy Friday, y'all. Hope you all are having fun wherever you're tuning in from. I can't wait for you all to meet some of the guests I have on for today's show. It's going to be pretty awesome. We're starting a little bit late, but it's pretty fine because it's Friday and hopefully you all aren't doing too much anyways. But today I've really some awesome guests for you all. And I think you all should be super excited about what we're going to talk about too, because it's something that's really, really relevant and so many people struggle with on their day-to-day. And the Power Pack lineup I have for today, I'm really excited because it's two people. One of them who is just a abundant ball of energy, and another one who is an author and recently launched her new book that she's really, really excited about. And we're going to be talking about all of them, everything that she's working on, and then some. But with that said, my first guest for today, who I'm really excited to be talking to, is actually going to be hosting a retreat soon for women, for those who are interested in joining. Her name is Jun Moore, and she is someone that teaches people on how to heal through relational trauma so they can unlock their full potential. So if you're listening right now and you're trying to tap in to that inner you, that greater you, Jun is the woman to talk to. She's been doing this for quite some time, and she is so passionate about helping leaders, whether it be the women, sometimes even men themselves, really think about relational trauma, chronic stress, acute trauma, and come from a place of strength in terms of dealing with it versus weakness. And I'm excited because she has such a unique story and background, and she's been doing this for a long time, overcoming 20 years of trauma and healing for herself. And through our own tactics and techniques that she's going to be actually showing some of the amazing women who are in her community in the retreat that she's working on. So I'm going to be talking with her today, and I'm really excited because she is just someone that you need to know if you don't know her already. With that said, let me go ahead and bring in Jun. Hey, Jun, how's it going?
Hi, it's going well. How are you?
Just grateful to be alive today. What about you?
It's Friday. I'm ready for the weekend. Ready to get outside and relax and do some self-care. So
100%, 100%. So tell us, where are you joining us from today?
Yeah, so I am in Pocatello, Idaho, which I know a lot of people have no idea where this is. So I'll provide some context. I've lived all over the country, but this is actually just bought a home here in October. So we are about 2.5 hours south of Sun Valley. We are about 3 hours away from Jackson Hole, Wyoming. So we're east of Jackson Hole. And then we're also just about 3 hours shy of West Yellowstone. So we're in this really beautiful area of Idaho with access to kind of a lot. And then Boise is 3 hours west, and SLC is just 3 hours south. So it's really awesome. We're kind of in this cool little gateway where we can be in the outdoors, but we're not, super isolated. We can also get to the city and do that stuff too. So yeah.
Wow. So how long have you been living there? It sounds like it's a majestic area.
Just since October. So I'm sure you followed my little journey from Montana to Tulsa to Black Mountain to Boise to here, but that was just within the last couple of years. Like I said, I've lived all over the country. I never thought that I would end up in southeastern Idaho, but it's gorgeous out here. So we really love it. Yeah.
I love it. So talk to us a little bit about, how long you've been doing the work that you do as far as helping people heal through trauma. Because I've known you for quite some time, and you've done so much, not only for others, but you have such a unique story. I mean, you've done marketing, you've done product a little bit. You're also a wanderlust. You travel quite a bit as well. But talk to us a little bit, when did that passion for you helping people, supporting them through their trauma happen? When did that start?
Well, I mean, it's kind of an interesting story. I think I always felt really called to the helping field. But in the time that I was transitioning from being, a teenager to, adolescence to adulthood, that's really when most of my trauma was happening, at least the toughest parts of my trauma. So it was a field that I was always interested in, but I just didn't feel like at the time I had the capacity to step into that work. And I didn't know if I would be the right instrument for that work at that time. And so I'll just give a kind of a little bit of context. So as I was getting ready to leave the house right around the time I was 17, 18 years old, my parents separated. My mom became an alcoholic, unfortunately, and verbally and emotionally abusive. My dad kind of drifted off and to his own world, and I think he was trying to manage his own pain at the time, but kind of started a new relationship and really kind of shifted into a new family system. And so, as an only child, I really didn't have anywhere to go with that pain, and was experiencing the verbal and emotional abuse from my mom. And then my dad is on the narcissistic spectrum, so kind of having that sense of abandonment as he kind of just moved on to this new family. So I was in a tremendous amount of pain. So trying to navigate that and just be an adult and go to school and still get through my education, still try to have a career for myself while all of this was happening, was really, really difficult. So it took a long time. I saw my first therapist when I was 19. I'm 39 now. So it's taken about 20 years of my own work. And, working with therapists and such to get to a place where I feel comfortable enough to share my story. And this is, I would say, very typical of people who are raised in a family with parental narcissism. You really feel like you have to kind of protect the family and not expose what's going on. And so, it took me a long time to get here, but I'm here. So,
retreat you're working on, because it's been something
yeah,
really promoting everywhere, and I follow
yes,
you on LinkedIn. Talk to us
yeah.
about the purpose behind it and how you're trying to impact women.
Yeah, so I have a master's in organizational psychology, so I do have a psych background, mostly working with people inside of organizations, so doing learning and development, employee coaching, things like that. And for me personally, that's where I noticed a lot of my trauma, like kind of traumatic experiences and trauma would kind of show up was in the workplace, and trying to navigate that, trying to navigate my interpersonal relationships and really try to manage how my stuff was coming up in the workplace. And so that's really where I'm starting. And that's where I've been posting a lot on LinkedIn, helping people identify how their past experiences might be showing up in terms of conflict, in terms of stress, how it could be, impacting their work, their bandwidth, all of these things. And so that's really kind of where I'm working with women so that they can start to unpack some of these experiences, have a framework for working through their experiences, and start to kind of connect the dots and go, okay, this is why I'm showing up this way. And once we have that level of awareness, once we can build in that executive functioning, because that's what trauma does, it bypasses executive functioning and we go right into fight, flight, freeze.
Wow.
And so if we can start to heal ourselves by building in that executive functioning, giving ourselves that ability to make choice, have that metacognition, then we can start to change our behavior and really start to heal.
Yeah.
So,
You've supported so many women through their traumas. What have you learned? What have been some of the frameworks or a framework, that has really helped some of the women that you've worked with, whether it be the corporate trauma that they're facing or even just life trauma?
yeah, exactly. Because we know that trauma can happen either within our relationships, family relationships, and we also know that trauma can happen inside of organizations when we have kind of toxic work culture. I would say the biggest thing is helping these women feel like they're not alone, because I think for those of us who experience either trauma, whether it's, for myself, like having an alcoholic parent who then became kind of verbally and emotionally abusive, that's not something that we want to freely share. Same thing when you're inside of an organization and maybe you have a boss that's really difficult and might be very critical of you, or just makes going to work hard. I think a lot of us can internalize that as, boy, there's something wrong with me. There must be something wrong with me if, I'm being treated this way. I think we can really internalize that message. When we look at early attachment, our first attachment with our parents' ability to provide a secure attachment, meaning especially like with the mother, when a baby cries and the baby can then get soothed, and then that baby knows that he or she can rely on the mother. If that's not happening, if there are other things that are impacting a parent's ability to soothe, to help a child regulate their emotions, that's when we can have some impact on how we see ourselves. Because as a child, it's easier for us to look at what's going on and say, instead of looking at the caregiver and say there must be something wrong with them, we internalize it and say there must be something wrong with me. And so we learn to adjust our behavior. We learn to deny maybe parts of ourselves in order to make sure that that caregiver can be functional and take care of us. So we can bring these kind of attachment wounds into the workplace and kind of have a similar experience until we start to unpack and go, okay, no, there's not something wrong with me. Here are boundaries I need to set. Here are workplaces and work culture I need to make sure I'm walking into. Here are the questions I need to ask of leadership. Here are the things I need to ask for in terms of support for me as an employee. So it kind of can come full circle if you do understand some of your earliest experiences, because those do really imprint and make their impact on you and in terms of how you go out into the world. So
that's so powerful, June. And
yeah.
One of the things that I think is starting to become really important now is as work life is blurring even more, the importance of setting boundaries within, whether you're an employee at a company or if you just are living a lifestyle where you're often operating on multiple extremes, right? And you're not balanced, and it's affecting your psyche, and you're struggling with pent up trauma that you haven't dealt with. That's going to cause you to overload, and it's really going to cause you to it's going to cause churn in an organization, but also within yourself, because when people are continuing to operate on multiple extremes, they can't function in their best selves, right? So I think you're saying that, because I think the importance of setting boundaries is becoming more important as work and life continue to mix with each other.
Absolutely. And, I was having this conversation with someone the other day. He has been in food and beverage forever. He works for a huge restaurant group out of San Francisco, and he's getting ready to open up his own restaurant in Austin. And he works a lot with this particular restaurant group to go all over the country and kind of, help when restaurants are in crisis, or when they need some help with their people operations. And I was talking to him about emotional intelligence, and having been, somebody who was in organizational psychology over a decade ago, I was like, we have to change the conversation around mental health in the workplace. And it can't just be this taboo thing or this peripheral thing that we talk about. And it's not enough for our leaders to just be thinking about emotional intelligence in terms of how do I get more work done for my staff.
Wow.
We, as you mentioned, we bring our whole selves into our work. And so I think it's important for managers and leaders also to understand, mental health as it relates to trauma, because so many people experience trauma. And trauma is not just something that is, a devastating earthquake that happens, or a lot of us, when we think of trauma, we think of the most extreme form of trauma, right? And trauma, just like any other discipline or category, is so incredibly complex and nuanced. Trauma could be a miscarriage. Trauma could be losing, a family member. Trauma could be so many different things, how we experience it. And so I think understanding a little bit more about the complexity and nuances of trauma and how it operates and functions in the body, and as it is a whole body experience, I think that will just help people show up better at work. We'll have more understanding, we'll have more compassion, we'll have more emotional intelligence. And those of us that have trauma do really great work. Yeah. Sometimes we just need to press pause, and so being able to have leaders that have that compassion, have that understanding. For example, I can go to my boss, and I did this the other day, and I said, look, I need a couple of mental health days. And he was like, you got it. And, you know, we can speak openly. I've been with my team now for 3.5 years. We can speak openly about, I said, look, I've just got some family stuff going on. I'm processing some stuff right now. And my body just, I mentally, emotionally need a break. And he was like, you got it. Make sure you just let me know what like projects you're working on, what we need to press pause on. But he was immediately like, this is a priority for us. So I think it's making room for trauma to exist. We already know it exists. We already know that people experience it in so many different ways. And so it's just expanding the idea of workplace and mental health and seeing trauma as a natural part of people's experiences in life. So
that's so powerful, Jun. And, you know, the work that you're doing is definitely touching so many lives, including the people who you're reaching on social. So we'd love for you to share with our amazing community, those who are listening. Where can people follow more of what you're doing with your movement on educating people around trauma?
Yeah, so right now I'm having my website built. So the best way to connect with me is, and you can follow me also, is on LinkedIn. So you can find me at June Moore on LinkedIn, and then also on Facebook, June Moore. And that's where I'm posting a lot of the stuff that I'm doing, including either retreats and stuff like that. So yeah.
Love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much, June, for joining us. We need you back. Hopefully after your retreat, let us know how it went. What do you think?
I would love to. Yes, I would love to. And also, I just want to make sure people understand I open up sliding scale spots to my retreats as well. So I have a price point, but I also do work with people because I do think it's important that I can make it affordable for people, and I do payment plans and stuff like that. So that's something that's really important to me. So it's accessible.
Thank you so much, June.
Absolutely.
LinkedIn, you all. Thank you so much for joining us, June. Talk to you soon, okay?
Thank you.
All right, peace. Isn't she amazing? Make sure you check out June Moore on LinkedIn as well as on Facebook and learn more about how do you handle and face some of the traumas that you may be facing in your work or your life. You know, June is a radiating ball of energy. I've known her for quite some time, and she's really passionate about anything that she puts her mind to. Now, my next guest, I'm really excited about my next guest, just as much as I'm excited about June. And I told you all, we have two heavy hitters today, people who are doing really, really amazing work in terms of touching people's lives, whether it be educating them about trauma or maybe educating them about life through poetry. Now, my next guest, you know, she is really, really, really low key, but she's also a light worker as well. And she does so much to help people connect with their true selves. In addition to that, she recently launched a book. Now, this isn't just a normal book. It's a book that's a collection of poetry and reminders of self-love that are available now. And I'm super excited to have her on the show because she's going to share a little bit about what inspired the book, but also how long she's been working on this book and what got her passionate about poetry. With that said, please welcome my good friend Sam, y'all, to the show. Sam, what's up?
Hey, Tim. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. It's been a minute and I'm so excited to chat.
It has been quite a minute. How have you been? It's been so long since we last talked, but I'm always often following you on Instagram and other social media platforms. How are you? How have you been?
I've been good, man. Just like living life, you know. Recently we got a puppy, my partner and I, so we've just been parenting. So I have mad respect for all the parents out there.
No, shout out to you and your partner. You know, it seems as if puppies are the norm now. I love puppies.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. If he was awake, I would like bring him on, but it's all good. How about you?
I've been well. I've been taking care of myself. You know, 2020 was crazy for so many people.
Oh yeah.
You know, I'm just so excited. Now we're back in. You know, it's 2021, and it seems as if most people are. You know, as the world is normalizing again, most people are starting to go outside again and are enjoying themselves. So that's been awesome. But you know, I want to dive deep on a lot about you on the show because you have a lot of big things going on. In fact, you know, you recently just launched a book, right? Tell us a little bit about the book.
Oh yeah, so I actually have a copy here. It's called Things You Need to Hear Most. It's a collection of poetry and notes that are all rooted in self-love. Really, you know, I never set out to write a book. It all happened like last year. I really think of 2020. I know for a lot of us it was, but, you know, in my life, it was really the year of, you know, recalibration. At the beginning of the year, you know, I started to fall sick, like physically, my body just started having all these random pains. But, you know, living the fast life, I was always like, go, go, go. It's fine. I'm just going to push through it. But once the lockdowns and everything started in March, it was like the first time that I was actually forced to be still for like the first time in such a long time. And I think at that point, that was when my body's like, it was like, okay, she's finally still. It's time to like rest. And, you know, it was such a transformational period for me, even though it was really difficult, like being ill. And, you know, I started to suffer from a severe depression. I think it was all things that needed to happen and things that I needed to work through in order to get to the other side and discover who I truly was. Because that experience led me to realize that I'd been living pretty inauthentically. And once my body like fell sick, like it really showed me that you really can't do anything unless you're well, right? So some days I didn't have energy to like do anything. And as someone who puts so much of my worth and my value in the things that I did, it forced me to kind of look deeper into who am I truly outside of my output. So, you know, basically what was going on is I had a severe vitamin D deficiency amongst like other things, and it really affects like your immune system, your energy, like everything. But you know, I was forced to be in this position where I had to drop everything else in order to focus on my wellness and just recovering and becoming my best self physically and mentally. So I was fortunate to be able to work with a therapist to get through like on the mental health side with different doctors to identify what the issues were, and with the naturopath just to give my body the support I needed. And it was a lot to go through, especially when you don't know what's going on with you. You just know you're not well, right? So the way I was able to process what was going through was through writing. So I just started to ask myself, what do I need to hear right now? And the words would just flow. So it was just like me journaling for myself. And after a couple of months, as I got well, I looked back on everything that I wrote and I was like, wow, like I still need to hear this right now, even though it's a couple of months removed. And I feel like other people could benefit from these words too. So that's when the idea of the book came, you know, this whole process from, you know, the journaling, falling sick and everything. It's been almost 9 months until February when I released the book. It was literally like birthing this book baby. And it's like,
that is amazing. No. Tell us a little bit about some of the moments in the book writing process. What were moments for you? Because you wrote it during the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So you were using them. You were kind of writing it from a place of recalibration, as you mentioned. What were moments when you were like, "Oh my God, I'm writing this book," or you just felt, "Okay, I'm going to make this happen"?
Yeah, I think the first moment I was like, I'm gonna do this, I'm writing this book, was, you know, I'd collected all of the papers because I wrote in a journal, and then I just grabbed all the paper, and then I looked at it and I was like, you know what, this is an actual book. And then I decided on that day, I'm gonna release this in a few months. And I sat down, went to Canva, made the cover because I was like, if it doesn't have a cover, it doesn't feel real. So creating the cover for me was that process of kind of taking this conceptual idea and making it physical and tangible, and like, I'm doing this thing. So yeah, I think that was like the key moment when I was like, this thing is happening. And it's really been me living through this book, because I always say it's been a teacher in so many ways, like having to grapple with like what I was going through and, you know, processing these things on paper. And then when I decided it's going to be a book, it was the imposter syndrome of like, okay, I've never written a book before. How am I going to do this thing? But continuing to push through. So it's really taught me that like anything is possible as long as you put your mind to it and you put in the work. And sometimes work isn't like forcing yourself to sit down and like bang things out. It's just like maybe you work on something 5 minutes one day or like 10 minutes. Just going with the flow is what a big lesson out of this process too.
100%, and I think that really leads into a lot of the work that you did with your book of helping people find self-love. I think from a place of self-love comes flow, if you know yourself, if you know your strengths, if you know what you're great at, and you love yourself holistically, right? No matter what, then you're able to better deliver, what you want in the world and know what's not for you. For you, have you been hearing from your community how this book is changing lives already? Could you share some of those stories with us?
Yeah, definitely. The very first feedback I got from it was from my designer who helped design the book. So she bought a couple of copies, shared it with her mom, and she was saying that her mom absolutely loved it. She got together with one of her friends, and they started using it as a way to like keep in touch and go through the poetry together. Because the way I designed it is like you can either read it from front to back all in one go, or you can just flip to a random page and discover the thing you need to hear in that moment. So that's how they were using it, and just like discovering messages for each other. And also she said it helped to deepen their relationship because they started to talk about some of these things that we don't usually talk about, like the self-love and like your people's relationships with themselves and what goes on internally. We don't always share that with the people around us. So I'm just so grateful I was able to open up and facilitate that conversation between them. Wow. And, more stories continue to trickle through. And for me, it's just mind blowing because it came from a place like one of the darkest moments in my life. And, I was writing it alone, and there were days where I felt like just so alone and I didn't want to be here anymore. And it's just amazing for me to be on the other side and see how much light and joy this is now bringing into the world and into the lives of others. So to me, it shows that experience was worth it. Sometimes we go through things and in the moment you're like, I don't know why this is happening, but over time you start to see the reason behind the seasons and everything.
Wow, no, that's so powerful, Sam. You know what, Sam? Where can people follow you in your journey? You're super active on Instagram, but are there other places where people can learn more about the book and be a part of the Sam fan club?
Yeah, definitely. So definitely on Instagram. So my handle is @BisamNgube. Also, my website is where it's like the home of everything to do with things you need to hear most, where you can follow my journey. www.samugelenngube.com, and TikTok as well. So at the as well.
Okay, so you are active on TikTok. Check her out on TikTok. Check her out on LinkedIn as well. You're kind of active on there, not super active, but also Instagram. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for joining us today. When is the next book coming out, though, is what we need to know.
Yo, everyone's asking. I don't know. When the universe says it's time, it will be time. I don't know when that is either, but until then, just going with the flow.
Hopefully it's not after the next pandemic, right? Because we
Before then, in the meantime, I'll be giving you guys some yoga videos, some meditation. So you got stuff coming in the meantime.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
I'm part of the fan club, and thank you for the work that you're doing for so many people who don't understand how to love themselves. I think it starts with amazing written words of poetry, such as what you're making. So thank you so much, Sam, for all that you do for us.
Thank you for having me, Tim. And I'm just loving all the positivity that you've been giving out. Every time I see your face on my feed, it's just like this, hit of goodness. So thank you.
Thank you, Sam. We'll talk soon. Appreciate it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on today's God Live. That was the amazing Sam Nkwube. Please check her out and her website. She is doing amazing work in terms of teaching people of the power of self-love, as well as check out Jun Moore, who we just had on, who's coaching and educating people through their traumas, whether their life traumas or their corporate traumas. Trauma is not something that you have to go through alone. And there's definitely people who can teach you about love and trauma, and both Sam and Jun are the people to go to. With that said, thank y'all so much for joining us. Make sure to check out guidegroup.com. Our news site is live. We are live today. Guidegroup.com. It's been blowing up. Some of you have been reaching out to me about how much you all love the site and how much it's speaking to you all. Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all. We had our old site for quite some time, and we just realized, it's time to do a revamp in the direction that we're going as a company and showcasing how we're much more than an enterprise technology company. So thank y'all so much for living the Guide lifestyle and for being on Team Guide with us. Make sure to check out your bigblacktea.com Big Black Tea at bigblacktea.com. We are in pack with the inventory, so check us out at bigblacktea.com and show some love. And as always, sip in peace and abundance, y'all. Be well. Talk soon.